Good day to all the AASHA volunteers. And this video is going to give you the guidelines on how to conduct a storytelling session, which is a part of Module 2. Now, the guidelines for the storytelling as such is not very specific to just this storytelling session. You can apply it across anywhere, wherever you're going to do a storytelling. But in addition to that, we will be going into the specific format of the storytelling session, how you need to do and what are the exercises. So are you all ready for some storytelling? Okay, here we go. Now, each of the 8 storytelling sessions in the module 2 begin with an introduction activity. This is mainly to catch the attention of the children. Now, when you are telling a story, when you are narrating a story, what do you need from your audience? What do you need from the children? You need them to listen. They need to be settled. Of course, this is true for any lesson, but especially true for storytelling because you're trying to hook them on to you as a person. It is more than what the lesson is about. You are giving them your skill as a storyteller. So the introduction activity is just meant to settle them down, energize them a little bit, and get them set for the storytelling. Now, this will be followed by the narration of the story itself. We will be going a little more in depth as to how to narrate the story in this video. This should be followed rather by the story recall. The story recall is when you will be discussing with the children. It's not like a question and answer session. It's not like, okay, I ask you a question. Are you able to answer? No, it's not about that. So it should be more of a discussion format where you sort of go through the story with the children. Now the children, this helps in many ways. One, it helps in the children. It gives them a sense that there's going to be a recall, so it makes them more prepped up and they listen better. In addition, it helps them to sort of go through the entire session, what has been done, and sort of helps them to remember the story. You will follow the story recall session by an introduction to the functional grammar concept, which will come in the next session. So every storytelling session is followed by a functional grammar. So what we will be doing in the storytelling session is a small introduction. So you will not be talking about the concept itself. You will not be telling what it is, but in a way you will sort of prep them for the particular concept. We will again go into this in depth in this video. This will be followed by a very important activity, which is free drawing and writing. Now, free drawing, you're going to ask them to draw anything they want from the story, and writing, you will ask them to draw anything they want to write from the story. I know you have a lot of questions right now, but again, please hold on. And last but not the least, you will have some additional workbook exercises. This may vary from lesson to lesson, and we will go into them too. So let's move on now. Let's look at some of the introduction activities which could be given in your storytelling session. Well, of course, songs. Songs are very popular with children. Children love them. And the songs which should be given as an introductory activity would be related to the story itself. So it sort of gives a passage for you to get into the story while giving them a lot of activity and movement. Then comes the game. Game, it would be a simple game like charades where they're trying to, without talking, they try to indicate something and others try to guess, or it could be like showing big, small, and coordination between talking and action. So whatever be the game, it will be a very simple game. But in the lessons where you have a game, please be aware that it will be very energetic, very interactive. So do plan, have a strategy in mind as to how you will control the energy. Now, other thing you could have is also a discussion. For example, you will have a discussion also different kinds of fruits and vegetables they have seen. You'll have a discussion about have they ever heard about Japan? What do they think the people in Japan look like? So this will be again, this can be in a mix of English and the local language. You can try to keep to English to the extent possible, and if necessary, translate what you say. The children can talk in the local language, and you can translate it back to them. So introductory activity will be probably like 10 to 15 minutes at the most. And after that, you will have to have a methodology to stop it so that you go on to the storytelling, which is going to come next. If you look at your handbook, there are two sections as to how to narrate the story. The first would be a part of the generic guidelines where you have the generic guidelines as to how to narrate any story and some tips which will help you to narrate as well. After this, other than this, for each story, you have a set of pointers which would help you to narrate that specific story. Of course, everything is open to your imagination and your creativity. And so, as we move on to the first tip, that is exactly that. Enjoy the story as you tell. Narrate with a lot of enthusiasm and interest, as if you just want to tell them. Like you tell, the children are just waiting to hear what you do to that story. So become a child, let go of your inhibitions, use a lot of slapstick if required. Uh, just it should, at the end of it, you should feel good about having told that story. If you feel good about it, I will say that you have been successful. Now, of course, practice well. Stories come naturally to us, and so we may all feel that there's nothing to practice, it's just a story. I've heard many people say that. But when you narrate a story to an audience, when you narrate a story to a set of children, uh, it will help a lot if you have put in a good amount of practice. Practice the timing, practice how you're going to tell, what is the characteristic you're going to give to a particular character, how are you going to use the voice, are you going to use any pictures and props. Think about all this. I won't say spend too much of a time, but do justice to the story. Think about it, how you will narrate. If possible, do a run through also of the story. Moving on, few other tips. Time it well. So your story at that age, at the most, children, I will say their attention span for one story maybe 15 to 20 minutes, sometimes even less. And most of the stories that are given are small, but they're deceptively small. Now, if you start describing the characters, if you start putting the story into your own mind as you tell, you will find that it just becomes a little longer. That doesn't mean you have to stretch it continuously. Keep it to the story. Do justice to the story's length. Don't either stretch it or compress it. If you try to just tell the story using the words that are given in the book, you will find that it's very short and it won't be very effective. So as you practice, also time it well. And last but not the least, get into your theater shoes. So play the part well, like if you are depicting a lion or an elephant or a stonecutter or a farmer or a little boy, get into the character. And just imagine for that time that you are that person. How will you be? How will your shoulders be? How will your hands be? How will your face look? Just think about it, and then you will see that we are all natural actors. So I'm sure we do acting a lot of time in a required and formal and informal setting, and the children will just go along with you as you tell the story. Now that we are done with the generic guidelines, as I told you, you will have a set of specific guidelines which sort of tips to tell that particular story. So here is an example, which is a story I'm going to narrate in the video, that of the enormous carrot. Now this story is originally a Russian story called the enormous turnip. So we have changed it into a carrot so that our children will be able to identify with the vegetable. Now, If you read the story, I will say just take a minute to read the story, pause the video, read the story, and then come back to this slide again. Okay, you're done? Okay, great. Now, the story takes place in a farm, right? It's a story of a farmer. So describe the farm where the story is taking place. What kind of farm is it? It looks like a vegetable farm. How do you think the farmer looks? Talk a little about the different vegetables, their colors. Discuss with them what they like, what are the vegetables they like. And discuss, you can also talk about the different kinds of trees, what kinds of vegetables grow on what kinds of plants. You may be surprised that the children may know more than us on all this. So let them tell you, and then you discuss it, and then you make it. This is a very nice story to make it interactive because there are so many small things which you can have a discussion on. The second USP of the story is that has a repetition. Now, stories with repetition are a lot of fun. So you may think as an adult, you may think that, oh my God, how many times will you say pull, pull? What is the whole thing about this? But then children love it. In fact, they will be waiting for you to go to that. They will get the story very early on. So as you're going to the second character, they may think that okay, this is going to happen next, 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 next. But still they will wait. They will wait for you to repeat the words. They will wait for you to repeat the action. So there are multiple characters in the story, right? When you read it, decide on a voice or a way of speaking for each. If that is your forte. If not, don't get tense about it. It's fine. You can talk in the same voice for everyone. And did you see that one of the key things in the story is the way they fall after every time they pull? Well, you can make a big slapstick showcase out of your fall, and kids will love it. Kids will just love it and they will never forget the way the teacher fell every time they pulled the carrot. And you can ask the children to repeat the action and the words with you because here our focus is the language. And after the story is over, even though we have changed it into a carrot and all that, it will be nice if you could tell them that the story is originally a Russian story, Russian folktale, and the original vegetable is a turnip. You can describe a turnip if you can take a picture of the turnip and you can tell a little about Russia if possible. Where is Russia? Um, which part is it above us in the map? Is it below us in the map? Have they heard about it? You can have a discussion about countries and word for the word. There's an interesting word here, enormous. It means very, very big. So knowing additional words, synonyms, is one of a beautiful way a beautiful way to grow a language sense in the children. So if after this story, next time they want to talk about something bigger, I won't even say enormous. If they use the word enormous, then I will say it has really been effective. So you need to put the idea into their mind as to what is big, bigger, biggest, and enormous. So let's see how to do that. So now we are going to go on and let me just narrate the story to you. Okay, now are you ready to listen to the story? Now, for the sake of this, for a sample, I have taken the story of the enormous carrot. Now, remember that I am sitting down so that I can be in the range of the camera, but you're really free to move around. And in fact, this story would be great with some movement. Now, shall we start? Once upon a time, there was a farmer called Shankar. Do you know who a farmer is? Yes, a farmer is the one who grows food for us. What kind of food do you think grows in the farm? Yes, rice, groundnuts, vegetables, wheat, ragi. Very nice. So many things grow on the farm. And Shankar was a vegetable farmer. He was a very old man. And he had a beautiful farm, surrounded by trees, by apple trees, by coconut trees, banana trees, fruits. And in the vegetables, he had brinjal. He had red, ripe tomatoes. Wow! And he had cauliflowers and carrots. And such a nice breeze used to blow in the farm. Shankar could happily go to sleep under the tree, but he didn't because he was a very careful farmer. He was always looking out. Oh, ho, this has grown really big. Why don't I harvest it? Why don't I take it out? Oh, ho, look at this. Some insects have come. I should spray. He was always very careful about his farm. Now, Shankar's wife Jyoti was a sweet woman who was very nice and she cooked the most delicious food. And Shankar and Jyoti lived on the farm along with their grandchildren. Here they had a grandson and a granddaughter and a few animals. Now you should know that, you may know that there are a lot of animals in the farm, right? In addition to people, what animals do you think will be there with a farmer? Cows, yeah, cats, cats, wow, okay, dogs, yeah, to protect the property. A lot of animals. They had a lot of cows. They used to milk the cow. The cats used to drink the milk. But they needed the cats because why would you think the farmer needed the cat? Because there were a lot of mice. The cat used to eat the mice. But there was a little mice in the farm, little mouse in the farm who escaped all the cats. Whenever the cat saw the mouse, he used to go meow and pounce on the mouse. The mouse used to run away. But anyway, they were all these people were staying on the farm. One day, as Shankar was going and looking around the farm, he saw that a carrot plant had grown really big. Now, do you know where the carrot is in a carrot plant? Where is it? Where is it? Yes, you're right. It is below the ground, below the soil. So Shankar looked at the plant and said, "Hmm, very good. I will wait for 5 more days. It will become bigger." So after 5 days, he came back. Mm, very, very good. But I will wait for 5 more days. And he waited for 5 more days and it became bigger. Shankar came. Aha, very good. But I will wait for 5 more days. And he waited. And the carrot became bigger and bigger and bigger till it was enormous. You know what is enormous? Very, 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 very big. Now Shankar thought, good time. I will pluck out the carrot and ask my wife Jyoti to make nice palya. And he started trying to pull out the carrot. Now, do you remember Shankar was a very old man? He pulled and pulled and pulled, but he fell. The carrot didn't come. So he called, "Arey Jyoti, hey Jyoti, where are you? Come here." And Jyoti came as fast as she could. "Abba, ayo, my God, my legs. Where are you calling me, man? Old man, I have so much work. What do you want?" Then Shankar said, "Hold me and help me to pull the carrot." Okay, said Jyoti. So Jyoti held on to Shankar and they both pulled, 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 pulled. The carrot didn't come out. So they called to their grandson. "Hey, Maga, come here." The grandson came running. "Yes, Tata, what do you want?" "Come and help me pull the carrot. You say you're strong, strong and all. Come." So grandson held on to grandma. Grandma held on to grandpa. And they pulled and pulled and pulled and pulled and pulled. The carrot didn't come out. So they called granddaughter. Your granddaughter was a dancer. Takka 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 tai takka tai takka tim takka tom. Hey, come here, said the grandson. Come here. Simply dancing all the time. Come on, hold me and pull the carrot. So the granddaughter held on to the grandson held on to the grandma held on to the grandpa, and they pulled and pulled and pulled and pulled and pulled. The carrot didn't come out. Seeing all this, the dog came woof, 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 and then held on to the granddaughter, grandson, grandson, grandma, grandma, grandpa. And what did they do? Ah! Now, seeing that the dog was caught and can't attack, the cat came running, meow, and held on to the dog. Cat pulled the dog pulled the granddaughter, granddaughter pulled the grandson, and grandson pulled the grandma, and grandma pulled the grandpa. They all pulled the carrot, pulled. The carrot didn't come out. You know, there was one other animal in the farm. Do you remember who it was? Yeah, the mouse. Can a mouse pull such a big, enormous carrot? No, it can't. But the mouse saw that the cat cannot fight with it now. It was so happy. It keeps scurrying. And then it bit the cat in the leg. And the cat screamed, meow, and scratched the dog. The dog scratched and kicked the granddaughter. The granddaughter said, achoo, and hit the grandson. The grandson, hey, he said, and pulled the grandma. The grandma, achoo, she said, and pulled the grandpa. And you know what happened? Out came the carrot. Yes, and that is how a little mouse, a small little mouse, helped the farmer to pull out the big carrot, bigger carrot, bigger carrot, enormous carrot. Now, I hope you did enjoy the story. I'm sure the children will enjoy it too. Aren't you? Now that you're done with the story and the children have had their bit of fun, you come to an important part in any storytelling. That is the story recall. Now, story recall is very important because you're not trying to test the children, as I told you, you're trying to help them understand it better. It helps them to understand the story because when you ask the questions, they will think about it. And even if they hadn't listened, they will listen to someone else answering them. So they will be able to comprehend the stories. And these stories may be simple for adults, but for children, especially when you're telling it in a language which is not very, very familiar to them, a recall is what is going to help them to cement it completely. Okay? And next, it helps in recollection. Now, what is recollection? Basically, you have told a story and there are so many details in it, small details in it. As they listen to it, they would have had a lot of fun, but they may not have paid so much attention to it. But as you ask, they will try to link one to the other and recall it from their memory. This actually builds the links between the different things that they have heard and helps them a lot. It helps to make their imagination soar. As you ask these questions, the children will rather reimagine the story in so many ways. They'll be thinking, as you say, what did the farm look like? They may start thinking about a farm that they have seen. Or if they haven't seen a farm, they may start thinking about what would be there on a farm. So it really helps them. And last but not the least, listening. As you make story recall a part of your uh, storytelling session, the children will know that they are expected to answer, and so will listen to your story. Now, what are the kind of questions you could ask in a story recall? Like, let's take an example based on the story we just heard. So some of the questions are listed on the slide. Can you remember? You can ask them to remember who was the oldest person in the story, who was the youngest, who were the people on the farm, how many animals were there. They can count it off and name the animals, and what is the vegetable they were trying to pull out. You can ask them some other questions like what was the color of the vegetable, some things which you didn't probably mention during your storytelling. And you can extend this to ask about the colors of some other vegetables. And you can also, what do they make with the vegetable in their house? The Jyoti wanted to make palya. What does the mother or whoever is in their house make out of the same vegetable? And so you can ask them some thinking questions like, why do you think it was so hard to pull it out? What was holding the carrot back in the soil? Right? Was the soil very hard? Were the roots very strong? So as you ask these questions, they will start imagining. They'll start imagining that they're actually in the farm where there is a carrot and there is a farmer who's trying to pull it out. They'll start imagining the carrot. If possible, you can bring a carrot or even a picture of the carrot and show it to them. And how did the vegetable finally come out? Then you can ask them some imagine interesting creative questions like, have you been to a farm? What do you see on the farm? There can be a discussion. So these are the kind of questions that you can ask in the story recall. Now, after the very important story recall, we will go to the next part, which is the introduction to the functional grammar concept. Now, the storytelling is always followed by the functional grammar concept. So, in this session, we're just sort of giving them a primer so that they have something in their mind when they come to the next class. For example, following this lesson is the lesson on naming words. Now, what they're going to in this exercise, you're going to ask them some questions and ask them to answer it. Fill in the blanks with the answer. You're not going to tell them that these words are naming words, but they will be using the naming words in their answers. So the next class, when you start talking about a place, animal, person, thing, they will remember this and it will be a connection and they will be able to connect it to the story as well. Now, there will be different exercises in different lessons. They will all not be the same, but there will definitely be a introduction to a functional grammar. It will be a short exercise. This will be more for information. This will be more for their exploration rather than testing. So when you go to the next lesson, you're going to have them practice it again and again so that they will be able to remember the functional grammar concept. In addition, most of the storytelling lessons will also have three opposite words in them. So the idea is that you're sort of breaking it down into chunks. In each storytelling lesson, they will learn three opposites. So explain the opposites in the local language. Don't just tell into English. If you are able to use some objects which are there in the class, use some objects which you can bring from home, maybe some pictures to demonstrate the difference. Use actions. Now that you are a storyteller, go ahead and explore how you can use actions to help them understand these concepts. And after that, have them repeat it orally several times and write down the words in their workbook. Now that you're done with the functional grammar, we come to another very important part of the storytelling lesson. Now, this is not going to be tested. This part of the storytelling, their comprehension and their ability to write is not going to be tested. But I still maintain that it is very, very important. So what you're going to ask them to do is you're going to ask them to write a few sentences based on the story they heard and draw whatever comes to their mind based on the story. Now, both each of which has their own place. We do understand, and I am sure you will have that question in you that how can they write? They're just learning. That's fine. So in this, this is a sort of a stretch exercise. You're just going to ask them to write whatever they can. Initially, they may just write some words. You can help them to write sentences, longer sentences, maybe finish it in sentences. And as you go on to the as you go on in the lesson plan, the children will can start trying to write sentences by themselves. Then maybe they can start writing multiple sentences. You do not have to um, force them to write grammatically correct sentences. You don't even have to enforce correct spellings. But that said, when you do see a wrong spelling, especially of the words which is within their grasp, for example, if there is a word such as difficult, which they have no idea about, and they write the spelling wrong, I would say just forget about it. It's fine. But let's say they have a word boat or good and they write the spelling of God, then surely go ahead and correct them. You can help them to understand that these spellings can be corrected, right? So this free writing is very important and it is also a way of recall. So even after all the story, you've told them the child is able to write, let us say, 5 words: farmer, carrot, dog, mouse. I will say good because they have written from memory. You have not told them anything, you have not written anything on the board. It is completely their own writing. Secondly, drawing. Drawing based on the story is one of the best ways for them to imprint the story in their mind. As you were telling the story, they would have been visualizing it in their own mind. Now is the chance you give to them to draw it. Now, some of them will be more artistically inclined, some of them may not be. That is fine. As long as they know what they have drawn, it may look like a triangle to you, but if they say it's a house, then you take it as a house. That is what they have tried to draw. So that's it. So free drawing and free writing is a very important part of the storytelling session. That brings us to the end of this video on storytelling. Now, don't forget to give the homework and have fun. Thank you again. Thank you very much.